Okay. Tom's rant, the VA mental health. Most of you have already known that, by watching some of my health videos, that I do bash the VA quite a bit. I'm leaning against the wall. Does that look cool? Anyway, the whole idea of wearing the hat, because of the cue ball. Somebody mentioned the cue ball. I haven't heard that since high school. But anyway, when you're, here's the situation with the VA. The Flint VA, when I was going there, they changed providers for me, oh hell, probably 4 times. People are always quitting. Well, anyway, one of the social workers, they're not actually, they're called social workers, and I do believe they have some college courses, but they're not technically, they're not a psychiatrist or a therapist or whatever, they're basically social workers. So anyway, I had one girl, I swore, right? It was the first time I'd seen her, and I said something about shit or whatever, or hell, and she goes, "You can't say that." I'm like, "What?" She goes, "That's a curse word." I'm like, "Well, that's bullshit. I should be able to say whatever I want. I'm in therapy." And she says, "You can't say that word either." So I was shocked at that. And I'm like, okay. So then anyway, I believe it was Raganathan was her boss. So I called to complain to her, and I told her what corresponded, and I says, "I really think that's bullshit." And she says, "Oh, you can't say that." She says, "I don't have to listen to that. Nobody does that to VA." And I'm like, wait a minute. I says, you people are in mental health. When you're in that office providing a service to veterans, keep in mind 22 veterans kill themselves every single day. 22. A lot of other people commit suicide too, I know that, but this is strictly about the veterans. So anyway, they don't want you swearing. It's not all the people at the VA. That's their guidelines. They don't want people using certain kind of language, but the majority of providers that I've been switched to so many times, like up here in Flint, or up here in Saginaw, over the last 5 years, I've burned through 3, I believe it was. Wendy, she was really good, but she was a supervisor. She's no longer a supervisor. She's a supervisor of the suicide prevention team. And they got a new supervisor in, and since then, people have been quitting left and right at the VA up in Saginaw. All the girls up front quit. Yes, I call them girls. I'm not going to call them women or females. They're girls. Because of my age. They're girls. When a lot of the girls would come over here, and some of them were lesbians, I always refer to all of them as guys. I'm like, "Hey man, it's nice having you guys over." Nobody ever took offense to it because they didn't care. Why would you take offense? But anyway, getting back to the VA, it's amazing how many people, and even the social workers, counselors, clinicians, I think they call them, a bunch of those are quitting also because the new supervisor took over. When I complained to the new supervisor about Haley, all she did was make excuses, and her supervisor told me, "Don't call the White House hotline and complain." I was shocked at that. I'm like, wait a minute. You're not correcting the situation, and as a supervisor, you're not doing your job. And your girls, the therapists, because guys too, aren't doing their job, and I complain to you, and then instead of correcting the situation, she tells me, "Do not call the White House hotline," which is something President Trump put in, because it makes us look bad. Then do your fucking job. Anyway, point being is they don't want you swearing, okay? And when you're in mental health, and you have a veteran come in there, male, female, doesn't matter. Let's say there was a female that was raped. She's supposed to say, "Well, I was raped by this guy and it wasn't very nice." No. She's going to say that fucking asshole raped me and I would really like to have him dead. Problem with that, you would like him dead or you would like to kill him. Now you're homicidal. So if you ever say in therapy at the VA and you say that you wish somebody was dead or I'd like to kill that person, immediately they put in your file that you are homicidal. So that makes you a danger. Abuba Baba, back when he was in with Biden, they tried to pass a law that required mental health workers to report to the government any kind of language like that. You're not a danger. Like me, Washington, asshole overseas kind of fucked me over. Yeah, I would like to kill him. He's already dead. But if I was to say, I would like to have killed that guy, then I'm homicidal. So anyway, you have to be very careful what you say to the VA because then they'll put it in there that you're homicidal. Luckily, that bill didn't pass with the Booba Baba and Biden, but they want mental health workers, both VA and civilian, to report to the government what you said. And by doing that, they can say you can't have a weapon, a firearm, because you're a danger. You go in for postpartum because you can't handle your baby and you're suffering and you don't want to hurt your baby. You want to get through it. You go to mental health. Okay? They wanted that to get reported. Anybody who gets treated for mental health problems, they wanted that to get reported to the FBI. So when they run a background check, so you could purchase a firearm, you would be denied that firearm simply because you went to mental health. Even if you didn't say you wanted to kill somebody. Just the fact that you went to mental health. Oh, me and my wife are having problems, hey babe, let's go to marriage counseling. Okay? Bingo. They wanted that to get reported because you went to mental health. You're suffering from depression. You're not suicidal, you're not a danger, but you went to mental health. And that's what the government is trying to do, to take people's weapons away and prevent them from getting firearms. And that's ludicrous. But anyway, at the VA, you should be able to be fully open with the provider that you're seeing. You should be able to talk about, a buddy of yours gets blown up, from improvised explosive device, IED, because you didn't know what it stood for, or landmine, or he gets shot right next to you, his guts are hanging out, the guy's bleeding, you get a leg blown off, an arm blown off. You have to be able to openly talk about how you feel about that. And that's part of therapy to get through stuff. So a lot of veterans are afraid to get the mental health they need because they're afraid of what the VA will do, okay? And that's not right. And the language thing. The way I look at it, when you're inside that office as a mental health worker, that's what you are. You're not a woman. You're not any race whatsoever. You're not a guy. You're not a girl. You are a therapist, period. When I go in there, I don't see him as anything else than a therapist. If they're a shitty therapist, then I see him as a shitty therapist. But luckily, the original girl, Angela, that I had up here in Saginaw, I come right out and told her what had happened in Flint, and she says, you can say and use whatever kind of language you want. And she says, believe me, she says, when I'm not here, she says, I swear more than my husband does. And she says, so that's fine with me. So some of the therapists, they don't care what language you use because they are there to help you. Now, once you step out of their office into the hallway, okay, that's a total different situation. You can't really say anything outside that office because you're outside the office. Now, if you're directing it at the person and saying, you're a real bitch, okay, No, that's bad because you're actually referring to the therapist as an asshole, a bitch, or motherfucker, or whatever. So yeah, you can't really do that. I understand that, but you should be able to be open and talk about what you want. And veterans are afraid to go to mental health, get the help they needed because they know from guys like me and other veterans exactly how careful you have to be on what you say. So anyway, I did do this video earlier, but it was 18 minutes, so I tried to shorten it. So hopefully I got it short enough. There was more I wanted to say, but anyway, and that's why a lot of veterans, even in the civilian world, I'm not sure, I was in therapy on and off in the civilian world and nobody ever complained. But anyway, the VA, some of those girls complain about language, and that's just wrong. You're in the wrong field. When you're in mental health field, you have to be able to sit there, listen to this service member, our veteran, talk about somebody getting blown up or getting shot, or them getting shot, or even guys getting raped, you know, or you're a POW and all the shit that the fucking asshole Viet Cong, you know, did to veterans. Okay? You have to be able to openly discuss that and say however you feel without any fear whatsoever. What is said, and the other thing that's horribly bad about the VA that you also have to be careful with is anybody. You're going to mental health, and that's, to me, that's private, that's personal. You're discussing your problems with a professional, but anybody, a physician, a non-physician, that's what I call them. They're, I always say they're NPs, nurse practitioners, I call them non-physicians. PAs, doctors, anybody can access, not anybody, but pretty much anybody that works at the VA that can access that system can pull up your record. They shouldn't be able to do that. And that's the other thing that's bad about the VA is when you're talking to your therapist, it goes in the notes and anybody can fucking read it. And that's, to me, that's an invasion of privacy because the doctors, nurses, whatever, none of them should be able to read what you say in mental health unless you approve it. And that's another reason veterans don't get the treatment they need, because they know that whatever they say is not really private. So that's a big problem with the VA mental health. So I hadn't done a bash the VA in a while, so I had to tell you about that. So anyway, thanks for watching. Hopefully I cut this a lot shorter than 18 minutes. So if you want to subscribe, hit the little bit in the bottom right hand corner. I'm up to 89,000 views, something like that. No, can't be that high. Could be, I don't know, 88. Anyway, thanks for watching. Give me a thumbs up if you like the video. If you don't like the video, give me a thumbs up. But anyway, comments are welcome. Keep it clean. If you start getting nasty, I will eliminate your comments because I don't. No. And you may say that's censorship. No. If you get nasty, you don't belong leaving comments. And some people do that just to try to piss people off and get a rise out of them. So, bam, they're gone. And over the last couple of years or whatever, there's only been a couple of people that I had to ban or take off their comments because they were trying to start something. So anyway, appreciate everybody watching. I hope you enjoyed it and learned something, but, thank a veteran. A lot of times when I'm out walking around in stores and stuff, I have my veteran hat on, and it's amazing how many people, thanks for your service. Hey, appreciate your service. Hey, thanks a lot. I get that quite a bit. That makes veterans feel a lot better. True veterans. I'm not talking about these guys that went in from the gangs just to learn how to kill. Because there's a lot of bad veterans, don't get me wrong, they're all not good. Anyway, that's a whole nother thing about veterans that I could go into. But anyway, thanks for watching because I'm rattling on again. Shut the hell up.